Who let the
Amber.
dogs out? Ooh, ooh, ooh. I was talking to
All
my
right.
mom about that.
Amber, come here, sweetheart. What's going on? Ozzy, what's happening?
Namaste, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be across the planet, around the world. My name is Gregg Prescott from In5D.com. And you're tuned into another In5D Zoom live with Dr. Thornton Streeter and Joyce Mason. But before we get going, first, I want to give a shout out to In5D.net, where you can check out amazing shirts like what you're seeing on right here. This, what I'm wearing right now, this is one of these all chakra, quantum, crystal, and gemstone t-shirts. I interviewed Adrienne Goff a few weeks ago, and she recommended several crystals for each chakra. So what I ended up doing was I put those crystals into each one of these dyes for each color of the 7 chakras, 2 different crystals. So at the shirt that you're looking at right here, it's got 14 different crystals, not including the 99.9% quartz crystal sand that you find here on Siesta Key Beach, which supercharges all the other crystals. So you can check out shirts like that. And then we have like a chakra specific, like the throat chakra right here, shirts, which uses just the throat chakra gemstones. And this is one of my favorite ones. I was wearing this in the last episode, a shirt like one of these, and that's for the third eye. And even though my third eye is wide open, I just love the colors of it because it's kind of like it's an indigo blue, but to me, it looks like blueberry. You know, it's almost like an antioxidant shirt. So anyway, check those out at in5d.net if you want to help support the channel. Also, another way you can help support the channel is to check us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/in5d. We got all sorts of different levels that you can check out. For 111, you get your name listed on the eternal wall of gratitude. You also get alerted for shows like this. So check us out on that. At $5.55, you get that, plus the ad-free articles, the Insiders Club private chat. That's coming up here in a couple days. Let me see. Yeah, in 2 days, that's coming up on the 1st. So Insiders Club private chat held on the first Wednesday of every month. So that's coming right up. And then at the 11:11, you get all that from the previous tiers, plus afterthoughts and mid-month energy report video and so on. And the tiers go up and up. So, but any support is greatly appreciated. As you know, we're incredibly shadow banned on Facebook. So be sure you subscribe to YouTube as well. You got somebody who has their, okay, you muted yourself, thank you. And we be sure to subscribe to YouTube as well as hit the bell notification so you get notified. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe to In5D as well. There's either a daily or a weekly email subscription that you can subscribe to. So you can check that out. I just want to mention a couple things too before I bring our guests on. There was a video by David Wilcock talking about the 3 days of darkness. I'm not terribly sure about the validity of if and when that will happen. Just thought I'd put it out there though, if that is a possibility. Also, I did see a recent video on Ellen DeGeneres where she's wearing this yellow sweatpants and sweatshirt, and you can clearly see an ankle monitor on her. There was a previous video to that where people suspected that she had an ankle monitor when she had that one shirt on that had the child pedophilia signals or signs on it. There's another video that confirms that. So something crazy's going on with her. But outside of that, we're going to bring on our guests. So I have with me Joyce Mason and Dr. Thornton Streeter with me. And today we're going to be talking about Biofield Energy. So I'm going to have them explain to you what this is all about, and then we'll just jump right into it. So Dr. Thornton Streeter and Joyce Mason. Welcome to In5D Live.
Well, Gregg, thank you so much for inviting us today and hosting this platform in general. Much gratitude for what you do every day to bring this type of information to folks. I personally was invited by a healer friend to come over to Sarasota and check out this Biofield imaging software, and went to the event and happened to meet Dr. Thornton Streeter there, which was a bonus. And for me to be able to see the biofield or energy field around us was life-changing. It's really, you know, I've always known that some people have gifts that I don't always have, that I don't have at this time. But to be aware of what we're literally wearing and to be able to do something about it was transformative to me. So I'm happen to be one of the biggest cheerleaders about this technology. And I know that once Dr. Streeter starts to share and we do your reading, folks will also understand the value that this can bring to all of us and the awakening process that we're going through. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm a Reiki master and intuitive energy therapy master teacher. So if anybody's interested in that, you know, I can share those links later on down the road. But in the meantime, without further ado, Dr. Thornton Streeter.
Oh, you're so kind. Yes, I'm here. There we go. I'm just trying to find a nice quiet spot where it's not too bright for me. It's a gorgeous sunny day after weeks and weeks of snow. So glad to be here with you, Joyce, and Gregg, thanks for hosting us. Yeah, we developed the Biofield imaging software about 30 years ago. So this is not a new thing that, you know, we have to justify. I've run a United Nations funded lab for 20 years investigating holistic modalities, seeing how Reiki actually works. And we integrated our lab with an array of different devices, all the Biofield type machines that were known, and then of course sort of full medical screening as well, so that we could fully integrate our understanding. So I don't come to you with, hey, wow, you know, we think we're seeing this, we think we're seeing that. We really know what we're seeing, but you know, we've been in a world with a different worldview for the same type of period, you know, where modern medicine has really dwelled on biochemical solutions. And we've kind of ignored the invisible aspects of self. We've ignored the, you know, the real immunity, the real well-being. And I think this current crisis is bringing that all to the fore, because people whose energy fields are bright and vibrant and coherent, no virus can get in. I mean, a virus becomes like Icarus flying towards the sun when we're shining. So it's not so many, it's not about what pills you're consuming from a plastic bottle. It's about what you're doing to increase and enhance your field. And of course, we discovered that the processes involved in that are such things as grounding and being exposed to nature, being in nature. So anyhow, I mean, to come to where we are right now, I was sent a set of images from Gregg, and you know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I hope at some point that we can have a look at your images, Gregg. I appreciate you being so open to the rest of your community seeing live what we're about
I've always
to
said,
do.
I've got nothing.
One of the things
nothing to hide. I've got nothing.
Well, no, you haven't. Your energy field is awesome. I mean, you did mention earlier, before we were getting on, that it might be a good idea just to share a couple of images so people get an idea of what's going on.
Sure.
I'm going to have to let the dog in, otherwise he's going to keep us all disturbed. Come on, hounds. Oh, they're happy. So yes, I'm going to share a couple of images with you on my screen, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to just share my desktop, and I've got an image here that I want to show you, and I hope you can all clearly see that when we apply an electric charge, a bit like to a neon bulb, all the gas illuminate in the same way. If we put a charge near the human body, we can actually see. This, of course, applies to all living systems, whether it's a plant, animal, or even a mineral. And it's fascinating that what we see is the light actually shines out of the grooves in your fingertip. And so we can understand immediately how a palm reader, for example, can read the history of your lives because the grooves are speaking to the skeleton of the soul. So it really is the story, the signature of each individual in their emanations. And so it becomes a very unique opportunity for us not only to kind of map and identify individual issues, but also to give very specific stepping stone guidance for each individual, because we've all got little bits and pieces that can be optimized. And of course, the one thing about the biofield is that it's generally invisible. So it's great that we've had, computer age, industrial age, high-tech age, quantum age, that we're able to develop technology sensitive enough to actually image this biofield. And it's a game changer because it shows very clearly the pathway to well-being isn't what we're currently being offered in the traditional, modern medicine. And many of us know this, but now we can actually do science to prove it. And so there's going to be a lot of pushback against the resistance to things like homeopathy, gentle tools. And of course, so many pioneers like myself along the way were shunned and demonized. I get a lot of kind of quackery thrown at me just because of this different worldview. And so I think we're going to have a look over the next couple of decades at the work of people like Raymond Royal Rife, because if you had a Rife frequency generator right now, you're going to do much more benefit with the COVID virus than just about any other tool. So, it's just simply a matter of irony right now, how ill prepared we all are, how much we're showing our underbelly. But at the same time, I think it inspires the great river of consciousness to meander when we face, such hardship on one bank. And maybe we're swinging back into a golden age. I certainly hope so. But just to give you a little bit more idea, obviously I don't want to overwhelm everybody here with slides and images. This isn't a lecture, it's an opportunity for us to discuss. But the biofield imaging that I developed with John Catchpole, inspired by our mentor Harry Oldfield, is a fully live, real-time imaging system. So you can see on this lady. I'm going to turn the audio off. And you can see that at a certain point, sorry, I just missed it. She's doing the healing. And of course, it's all intuitive. The healer knows where to work. And what's interesting, we see this there. You see this yawn, and she actually just jumps an octave, if you like. We call it the phase shift of healing, and it's crucial because in theatre we can see the impact of healing and we can assess what's going on, and I think this really is a new age of openness. Now you mentioned chakrology available in the world that actually shows the chakras live in real time. So in terms of, you know, as a practitioner, knowing where we need to work, we can see in this image, someone has really quite a congested heart chakra here. We can see the solar plexus below, solar fire, the fire element, literally setting a fire underneath that heart chakra, trying to get it unblocked or unshielded. But in doing so, this solar plexus itself has become corrupted, picked up on something else. So this is what we call disease. The chakras are constantly operating to keep homeostasis. But once 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 chakras break down, we then start seeing physical tentative screening tool, because I can see stuff long before it becomes physical. And the other aspect to it is that we're seeing the roots of disease. We all know, healers around the world, that there's a map of emotion. The body is a map. So when we see issues in the field, we know what they relate to. And I can give you an example. It does slightly relate to our understanding of, I mean, this is a bit of a masterclass from our perspective, but I think it's very appropriate because your channel is 5D. And I'll go through it very quickly, but what we're suggesting from our research is that the lower 3 chakras are lenses, are portals for physicality for us to operate. The first chakra relates to 1 dimension. If you imagine, we talk about fight, flight, or freeze. This is what the legs do. You know, this is all to do with the base chakra. It's about grounding. And if you imagine that as I emerge from my mother's womb on the first breath, I take my first breath, the first person that I see is my mother, the brother, the other. And so what we're suggesting is that the development of a child into adulthood is also the development of our connection with these different dimensions through our chakras. So what I'm suggesting is the second dimension relates to the navel chakra, the lower 3 chakras become kind of gyroscopic plasma jets for maintaining stillness on Earth. Now this ball is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, correct me if I'm wrong, and yet I feel still. And that's because my lower 3 chakras are grounding me, spinning and harmonizing so that I stay and feel still. Now this may all seem quite abstract to you, but it is important, because if the lower 3 chakras manifest our sense of presence in space, then our heart chakra, the 4th chakra, is our connection with time, with space-time. So that's why the heart is the spiritual clock. It beats to real time. And what I'm suggesting is that for a human being to be present, they need to have kind of got on their board. This is the lower 3 chakras, presence. They need to be riding the wave of time. And then they can access these other tools that we have, the 5D, 6D, 7D toolkit. I call it the sports gearbox. If you're not present, if you're not in heart space, if you're not riding the wave of time, you don't access these other 3 tools. And so when we speak of In5D, this is very much the present time, because it's all about beyond space and time. Time is manifested through our heart, and space is manifested through our lower 3 chakras. So in my research, I've done a lot of studies into distant healing. And of course, you know, someone's on one side of the world, we're all nuclear clocks in our lab 10,000 miles away. studying an individual. And instantly the healing starts, we see the response in the biofield. So we know that distant healing occurs beyond space and time, and it's conducted by people who are already present, who are able to go beyond space and time and operate with the triage of these three higher chakras: divine communication, divine insight, and of course the source itself, the nourishment. You know, the dark side of this is when people get up to this stage and they kind of think they're doing it. So they kind of hood over the source. And then, of course, they're sucking the living daylights out of everybody else. And that's prevalent in this age. But, you know, I think it's very important for us to understand this relationship are actually cosmic portal lenses that ground us into dimensionality. So when I say 5D, that dimensionality is information, it's communication, and it's divine. Because these other four lenses are filters. You have to go through you have to let yourself die and travel through the mud. You have to let yourself drown and travel through the water. You have to let yourself burn and travel through the ring of fire. You have to let yourself, you know, annihilate through the ring of plasma before you get to the 5, 6, 7 Ds. That's pure spirit. And these lenses of purification ensure, a bit like a U-bend on a toilet, that none of the rough stuff flows back up the system. Now, perhaps, Gregg, it would be appropriate now to look at your images, because we've got a fascinating ability now that we can encourage people to take their photos at home, and as long as they've got the right kind of setup, distance. And at times like this, when we're all stuck at home, I hope plenty of you use this technology and start looking after your communities as we are. So, Gregg, this is a series of images of you that we've taken. I have to say they're really, really nice. And you know, you can't fake this. What we love to see in the biofield is this brightness, this white light coming through. And in both sets of images that have been sent to me, we're really seeing that. And it's commendable. It's kind of like you're already A grade. You're already kind of at base camp, I call it. And you just got this last little leap up to claim your divinity, because, you know, these are the images of a God who needs to do a bit of housekeeping rather than, you know, a housekeeper who needs to learn how to be divine. So, you know, you're in a really strong position already here, Gregg. And I'm hopefully going to be able to give you some good advice, but also share with all of our friends on the computer here, you know, what may be in store for them when they get to see their images. So I'm just going to open up this set if I can. Easier said than done. There we go. They're all dropping in. Okay, so I always like to start with a front shot like this, Gregg, and we really can't recognize you as you because of all the kind of activity in your atmosphere, which we're able to observe now. And as I said, we love to see this white light, and it implies a real kind of grace, a real divinity. And although I've not met you before, I know for a fact that from your work that you're holding space for that divinity in nature, and I salute and honor it, my friend. But there are some other tips that I can speak to. You know, for example, we love to see symmetry in the biofield, and your biofield is impressively symmetrical. There are a couple of patterns and pools around that speak to certain issues, and I'm going to address them. But I do like to have a good look around the biofield and get a good understanding of one of first set of statements. You see how beautifully symmetrical this is? This is really wonderful. And we love to see. I'm going to sort of jump in a little bit. Now, Gregg, this pattern here on your shoulder here, that implies a sort of slightly sluggish energy. And, you know, it can be ergonomics. It can be that you spend a lot of time kind of on a computer, not really thinking about your body posture. It could be an old, you know, shoulder injury that you had coming off a surfboard. So can you just talk to me about the sort of general level of comfort and injury and, you know, story of your shoulders? Because definitely something on there that I can help you with, but I'd quite like to get to the bottom of it first.
I would say, you know, being a triple Libra and a workaholic, it's being at the computer a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that is. And it's interesting. I'm just going to ask you one other question though. Gregg, do you have collapsed arches on your feet, or do you have good arches? Do you
I have good arches.
Good high arches?
Yeah,
right.
I have good arches.
Now, I don't know whether people listening here have come across this, but generally we're seeing a complete collapse of arches generally in, especially in young people. I think it's because we're not climbing trees anymore. So I always like to ask this because that is something that can cascade out through the body up to the shoulders. Now, Gregg, do you notice that your left shoulder here is a little bit higher than your right shoulder?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
And also technically, I mean, the body's incredible. It always finds its kind of ergonomics. I mean, it always finds its harmony and symmetry. And the other thing that I noticed ever so slightly, although your shorts seem quite straight on, if I expand up like this, oh no, that is right. But I mean, that's just good eye catch. So my point is that there's something going on with your back, ever so slightly, and it's a kind of a subluxation, a little bit of curvature, and so I'm conscious about. So as we get older, our gait, our role is so important. I would definitely be a little bit more conscious of accepting massages, being open to good pandering, lots of TLC, and you know, you seem like a very kind of outdoorsy kind of guy. So I've got a funny feeling that everything you're doing is maintaining this system that would be a lot more compromised if you weren't doing what you're already doing. And in a way, I'm slightly nitpicking, but still, I'm revealing an asymmetry on the shoulders and a slight difference in height on those shoulders. And, you know, this pooling that we see on the back relates, I call it safe mode. It's kind of taut muscles. That's why I said a massage would be really, I'm sure that's a prescription that you can handle. Because, you know, we need to be supple, and we need to challenge those disequilibriums that aren't totally about how we interpret the biofield images. I've picked up on that shoulder issue. Now, notice that we've got two types of images here. One that is more kind of, it's difficult to recognize you, and one that's a little bit more sort of specific and pixelated. And so what I would say is that these particular images, what we call biofield images, as opposed to chakra images on this side, are speaking to the systems of the body. So where I see any kind of buildup of the pink pixels, it relates to something that's going on in the physical systems of the body. Now, a little bit of asymmetry in here. There's a little bit more pooling on this side than say on this side. So tell me, Gregg, your digestion, is that an important focus for you in your life, that you kind of got to get that right? You've got to get your eating right?
Yes.
And I'm going to give you an insight into why I think this is a sensitive area for you. And probably you help so many other people around the world because you had this experience yourself. Now, remember I said that the first dimension, base chakra, second dimension relates to relationships. So this area, when we're interpreting the biofield view, is always about relationships. And there's a little side, and this side relates to the father, work, like the office. You mentioned earlier that your life is a kind of work. You're a karma yogi, in fact. But could you just speak a little bit about your relationship with your father and how that kind of echoes into your life right now? Was he a real hero for you? Did you clash with him? Is he still with us? Father, please.
My dad is still with us. He's 90 right now. Just turned 90.
Wow.
He's laid back. I'm a spitting image of him. He's laid back, type B personality. He was a workaholic too. Yeah, I see where I got that from. But just really easygoing, laid back, funny guy.
Do you see him regularly?
As often as I can. I try to go there at least once a month. They live like an hour away. But they didn't want, my sister came down.
That's huge.
Recently, and they didn't want us coming down because of the COVID-19 coronavirus. But I might not see them again for another 2-3 weeks.
Right. And what about other relationships with, say, do you have sons?
I have a daughter.
You have a daughter, right? Okay, well, so what I would say is that with the image that I've got up on my screen right now, there's this sense of shielding, sense of kind of protecting yourself from certain things. And what I would say is that when our relationships are really sound across the board, and this is kind of a barometer for you, then also your digestion will be really sound and harmonized and normal as well. So they kind of go hand in hand. And certainly from an energetic perspective, there's something very interesting in this symmetry in terms of optimization. On the back of you here, these lines, it's just a slight sluggishness on your front side, which is obviously affecting your digestion. Encourages me to inspire you to focus on your relationships a little bit more, to look into, things that, may be different in your mind from another's. I think, as I said, if you use your digestion as a barometer, you'll know when you've reached perfection, because you'll be like, Now, I've been speaking mostly so far about the sort of inner atmosphere, the body surface. But I also want to speak to, your outer atmosphere, these beautiful colors we're seeing in your biofield. And as I said, whenever we see white in somebody's field, that to me is real grace, because that means someone's really in touch with their divinity, and you just can't fake it. And, I would take healing from this person because I know that they're really kind of in a harmonic space. So yeah, but there are some other colors apart from white, Gregg, and they're the ones that I want to speak to right now. Okay, so we noticed quite a lot of yellow in the field here. And what's interesting is that that could easily be white if you weren't doing something, okay? Now, what I'm trying to say is that we often see a lot of yellow with people who are mentalizing, maybe mentalizing too much. And what I mean by that is, excuse my French, mind fucking. And, you know, I met you earlier. You seem, as you were speaking about your father, an incredibly laid back gentleman. But, you know, what we're talking about here is like just a little bit too much thinking. And whether you own that or not, what I would say about this process is that in our studies, when they're thinking too much, they're holding their breath and they're not breathing properly. They're not taking their full share of breath. In the Vedas, it says we all have a preordained number of breaths. And if that's the case, I say we'll take them deep and slow. So in this particular kind of inspiration from my side, it's about taking those breaths mindfully. It's a kind of opportunity for conscious breathing. So you as Gregg can now control the pitch and yaw of your conscious chatter with this tool, which is working with the deep breath. I mean, there's so many beautiful, I mean, I don't even know, maybe you're teaching breath work, and I really don't want to teach Granny to suck eggs here. But at the same time, this is my message to you. You know, this is what I'm seeing. And to recap, go deep into your relationships, harmonize and clear, claim your full breath, and it'll allow your mind to still more in your meditations. And so next time I see a photo of you, there'll just be this complete whiteout around you. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about I mean, obviously you're a healthy guy. I've already given you an egg. Oopsie. Come on, guys, out you go. It's all a bit exciting at the moment because the bears are coming out of hibernation up here, and forest, and the dogs get all excited. So, Gregg, let's speak about some of these other patterns that we're seeing in your images, and we can see what we can relate to. Okay, so posture-wise, I'm saying, well, you're in safe mode there. That position that you're standing in, like that, is safe mode. You use it's kind of lock here and lock here. It's not the fluid, gentle, mobile state. So, you know, maybe be more lithe. I mean, you seem very lithe, but I just want you to drop out of these lazy spots where you're allowing those mechanical spinal disequilibriums to just lock on themselves rather than to keep lithe and flowing. I mean, living in Sarasota, you have the most beautiful ocean. Do you get in the sea every day for a swim?
I try to.
Yeah. I mean, this is the irony. This is the irony of our conversation, actually, because, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a funny feeling that these images, which are already A grade, could be a lot more compromised through structural spinal issues if you weren't such a dynamic, active person. But I'm still seeing some signs. Now, can I just ask you one more question, Gregg? Do you have any fillings?
Yes. A lot of them.
Do you, pardon?
A lot.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that. And this really is my swan song here. And it probably is speaking to a lot of the issues that we're seeing in your field. When you say a lot, are they white fillings or are the old school amalgam fillings?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was born in 1960 and most of my fillings were in the 60s and early 70s. So they're amalgam.
Yeah. Okay. So, Gregg, this is what I want you to do. Do you know muscle testing?
Yes.
Okay. Take one finger, wash your hands, and put it on each of your fillings and see which one is the actual stinker. Because you'll probably find 2 or 3 of the fillings in your mouth are stinkers and are actually causing you the health issues that I'm about to describe. And this is true for everyone who's listening. There's a really incredible fellow called Dietrich Klinghardt, and he does have some amazing protocols for people who've had fillings, how to kind of leach out all that heavy metal toxicity. And to be honest, Gregg, this is the story. This is our story, you and me. Everything else we've spoken about before was me politely getting to know you. This is the story, is how amalgam fillings attract parasites. Parasites love metal. It's like an acid house party for them. And so I'm going to give you 2, and that obviously changes the favorable bacteria in your digestive system become more kind of invasive. And I think that's basically what you're experiencing subconsciously under the carpet, is your immune system is having to work with 2 things. One is this, because old fillings have cracks around them and the parasites can get in there. So whatever you're doing with a toothbrush, they just can't get them. Fillings are like coral reefs for parasites and so forth. So I have 2 recommendations for you, Gregg, and this is going to transform your life. This is going to transform your energy levels. And if you do what I'm telling you, we can get back on in a year's time and you can go, yeah, man, I am feeling 30% more energy. I thought, it was just aging or XYZ or 5G. No, this is the story. So the first thing I want you to start doing, if you're not doing it already, Gregg, is oil pulling. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Good. Have you been doing it? Do you do it? I would recommend 10 days a month.
I've done it in the past, and I just want to say real quick too, I had a filling fall out recently and I haven't gotten it repaired yet. And I'm wondering if that's what's showing up.
No. I'll show you. What I'll do is I'll zoom in, Gregg, and when we can talk about what's going on. Okay, so it's the asymmetry. So top right jaw, there's a couple of fillings up in that side which are causing issues, and possibly, actually, what I'd like to do is looking at the other images. That side shot will gives us quite a good insight. You see there's quite a lot of pink here on your jaw. So it could be a number of different fillings in total are having this effect. But all I'm saying to you is, okay, COVID, we're in lockdown. I'm sure one of your listeners is a dentist or a holistic dentist.
Yeah.
The crucial thing to do is to swap in turn the metal fillings for white ones. It sounds a bit daunting because some of those fillings are as big as our teeth. But actually, you just won't believe what a transformation it will have to your energy levels, because you are currently experiencing heavy metal toxicity. And until you get those fillings out, it ain't going to change. we can climb Everest, we can chop wood and carry water, we can sit in front of 1,000 saints. But while we've got these metal fillings disharmonizing our field, we just can't reach our optimum. So
the
for those
problem
of
with
us
that
who are
is like,
committed to main.
the problem with that is that, like many people watching right now, I live basically week to week, month to month. I can't afford it. I would have done it a long time ago.
Right. Well, that's why I'm saying start oil pulling, because oil pulling is a poor man's dentist, and it is actually really good and healthy and fine. And it's what I do, because none of us can afford to see these ruthless bastards right now. But the fact is, that's what's required. And so it becomes a process. Like I said, maybe we're in barter town, you know, maybe we need to exchange. Put it this way, I get my dentistry done in India, and to change a metal filling for a white one costs about $14 each.
Wow.
So, you know, in America they charge $1,000 a tooth. Well, I'd say go traveling and have your teeth done on the way. Obviously, right now, COVID is there and we can't go anywhere. So it is sensible for us to be oil pulling in the meantime. But
we actually had a question, though. We had a
um,
question related in the chat room from James. He's asking, gold or silver full mouth implants, are those okay?
I love gold. Gold is the frequency of a healthy energy field. And it's why we created jewelry. It's why we like gold. It's why we wear. You see, look, the whole thing about jewelry is that this meridian needs this stone on it. So thousands of years ago, they worked out the best way to attach a stone. You remember, a stone is a frozen ray of light, and that meridian is weak on that ray of light. So that's how we invented jewelry, to act as nourishments. And of course, the astrologer will prescribe which gem you need. Now, any other metal on the body doesn't quite have the same history. And so I think gold teeth are fabulous. And I think probably you get around the problem if you have gold teeth. But it's really the amalgams that are the issue. Now, I personally don't have any implants or any fillings. I'm quite happy to become a kind of gummy shark with dentures and suck soup when I get a bit older. I'd much rather do that than have any kind of construction in my face. Now, obviously, you know, we already got that now. You know, it's all very well Thornton coming along telling us you want to be reborn, you've got to have your shiny chops back. No, oil pulling is a genuine solution and long-term replacement with white fillings. I mean, none of this is nice, but if you go to Mexico, if you go to India, if you go to Thailand, you know, you can get the whole job done for a couple of $100. So you can have a free holiday. But you know, the key thing is biological dentistry, holistic dentistry, because those guys know how to safely remove the fillings. And in most of the alternative like Goa around the world, you've got these local dentists who've kind of gotten trained to do the needful. So yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, Gregg, but in the meantime, oil pull 10 days a month. And what you'll find is your energy levels start going up. You know, your energy field is slightly compromised by this. And so oil pulling is going to give you that return to balance, and abundance will come, I'm sure, so that but you know, maybe we're inspiring people right now, Gregg. Maybe what we're doing is inspiring a younger generation of people to start thinking about, you know, what it does mean to have a healthy way. So, wow, we've covered a few different things. I've certainly given you a lot to think about, but I would certainly like to recap that. If you start oil pulling, your whole lymphatic system, your whole immune system is gonna improve. So, you know, I'm offering better energy levels right now just from oil pulling. I'm also asking you to be a little bit more conscious about your ergonomics when you're working, so that you face your computer straight on. Maybe you need a new bouncy Zen ball that you can sit on, and so you're not stuck in any one place for too long, because you're paying the price of being in service and not looking after yourself with these kind of shoulder strains. And I'd like to see you snap out of that and be gentle and kind. My other prescription was for you to experience and receive massages because of this tightness in your shoulders. I'd like to see that being worked for a massage, or maybe some of your adoring fans will offer you a series of massages in exchange for something. I mean, we are all abundant because we're not all stuck in this chasing the dragon of the greenback and then protecting and saving and worrying about looking after all our stuff. We're lucky we're in the moment. We're lucky we're in the moment. We really are. So we just have to be resourceful, and we have to work within our community. I need this, you need that. Let's swap it. Now, Gregg, tell me about your wrists.
I don't know. What about them?
Do you play paddleball? Do you have any clicks and grittles in there? Do you? Because I mean, we're not spring chickens anymore. Do you have kind of arthritic tendency coming in?
No, I play bocce ball a lot, and I you know, when I was younger, I bowled a lot. I was a scratch bowler. I've had several sanctioned 300s. Yeah, so I've used my right leg, and I've actually bowl. I'm ambidextrous. I can bowl with either hand. But I do play bocce when I go on the beach. That's how I relax. Bocce ball. So
Right.
that's throwing the ball, similar to like how you would throw a bowling ball. So, but I don't feel any pains or anything.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I mean, it's just, no, that's good. That's good. You're working them. I mean, I think what I'm seeing coming down through your arms really is a relationship with your throat chakra. And I just wanted to make sure that, you know, you were doing the kind of counteractive actions, which of course you are, because you're keeping them supple and mobile. Now, are you frustrated about anything, Gregg?
Probably. Probably.
Because
I mean, yeah.
The emotional counterpart to what I'm speaking about is frustration. It's like considering you're a mouthpiece to the world. There's a slight sense of frustration with the outcome, with this recommendation that I'm giving you to really go into your breath work. It's not about meditation. This is about you being in sacred space and taking your full share of breath, so you can draw this prana, this chi, into every corner, every dark recess. You have a capacity to shine like a god. And I say that to very, very few people. Not many people show up with this white light around them. And this is why Joyce and I were so excited when we saw your pictures first time. We were like, oh my God, you know, this guy's the real deal. And, you know, I honor you for that. I really do. And so if we can fine tune a little bit of oil pulling, a little bit of conscious ergonomics and some breath work, I'm going to take your picture in a month's time. That yellow is going to become white, and you're going to be like a blissed out munchkin, and everyone's going to be warming their hands on you.
That's funny. Well, yeah, the thing that frustrates me, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about the frustrating thing, and that would be, basically since 2013, I've been shadow banned on both Facebook and YouTube, and I'm not able to get the word out as much as I should be able to. And that, a lot more, I should be reaching a lot more people, and I'm not. And I'm not the kind of person who's going to ask people. I'd love to ask, and I have tried a couple times in the past to ask people to help me share articles, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
frustrating.
I think it's that sweet, gentle introvertedness you have. I mean, put it this way: let's make this presentation, this talk, an appeal. And he needs to get that stuff out there, and you're just as important as he is in doing it. So let's not be in the peanut gallery. Let's be on stage, serving, getting on with it. Come on.
That's easy for you to say. I can't. I have a hard time asking. I'll do anything for anyone, but I have a hard time asking anyone to do anything for me.
Well, Gregg, I'm going to take the opportunity to share this link when it's done on the Energy Medicine Exchange, which is a page that Thornton runs with many scientists from around the world. So I'll take that step forward for you this morning from my heart to get the ball rolling. Because that's a group of folks that you probably want to connect with as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm actually a big fan of your site, Gregg. I mean, I've been reading articles and seeing your stuff for quite a while now. So yeah, it's a great honor to meet you and give me an opportunity to serve you for a moment.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, well, you're the Don, man, and you're showing up with all your glory, and you're not laying it on thick like a trowel like so many of these other, we're in service here. We're in service to divinity. I mean, we don't need to have our feet washed for that.
I was at this conference back in 2011, I think, and it was for a 2012 conference here in Sarasota with a friend of mine, and her and I can both read auras. And as you guys know, auras, your aura can't lie. It is what it is at that moment when you see it. And I go to this woman I was with, Jenny. I said, look at the photographer there. She doesn't want to be here. I go check out her aura. And there was this, you could tell by her aura that she was just faking it. She had this fake smile on, but she didn't want to be there. It was Saturday morning. She probably spent the night out drinking. She may have had a hangover, but her aura didn't lie. So it's funny. Any of you who can read auras can attest to that. And if you can't, I have an article on In5D, how to read auras. You can check that out. It's really easy to do.
It's funny, Gregg, you mentioned that. I remember I started going to a metaphysical chapel in Fort Lauderdale a few years ago, Reverend Kevin Lee. And I remember sitting in the space and being aware that the folks in the room had gifts that I had not developed yet, and that they were able to see me at that level that you're describing. And it was the most freeing moment in my life, because I realized that in spite of all of my colors, I was still loved. And it was transformative. That's like just those times that you realize that people are really seeing you and love you anyway. You know what I mean? We're all here to do our work and ascend, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, very cool. So let's see.
Well, right now, Gregg, what we're doing, we're collecting images from around the world of people who've got the coronavirus. And we're doing this because we want to see if we can contribute to the kind of home screening dimension. Obviously, we just need a video capture, a picture from your computer, ideally with a white background. And of course, these images that I'm showing you now are people off the news, off the television. But it's interesting, they all have COVID-19 and they're all in isolation. And we're seeing some very fascinating and unique patterns, which seem to be quite prevalent in the throat and in the jaws of individuals and in the eyes. And so we're just putting an appeal out right now to people who've either got COVID-19 or they're prepared to do a little bit of kind of work to find us these video clips. Certainly if you could send them to me, I'd appreciate them, and we'll develop them, because we're beginning to create a template for what COVID looks like in an individual's energy fields, or at least what virus loads look like. So I would really appreciate if I could put that word out with our listeners today. And
how would they contact you if they do have it?
You know, Joyce.
So
right.
Greg,
Well, I think Joyce is going to share some details.
Sorry. Yeah, at the end of the call, Greg, I'll share some of the links, and then I'll also give that to you that you can add for the replay as well. But they've already established a link for the trial, instructions on how to capture the images, and there's an individual that is processing all of those. But I have all that information on my website to kind of get folks in the right direction as well.
Okay.
So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the need of the hour. But obviously, in service to you and all of your listeners, you know, if anyone would like to have their own images taken and interpreted, and of course it's quite unique. I mean, many of us will engage in distant healing, but there's no concept of distant screening. And so now, hopefully, you know, again, with us all locked up at home, it's an opportunity for us to work on ourselves, optimize ourselves. Certainly when I go out to the supermarket to buy my food, I want to be in the best possible state. And so we have the opportunity to do that now. And the other thing, Joyce twisted my arm, Gregg, to give your entire readership a system. So even before this call, she was twisting away, and she made me generate this discount code, which I've now shared with her. And so if any of your colleagues would like to join our team around the world, Tony Robbins was my biggest client last year. So, you know, we really are everywhere. But it's a real great adjunct for generating income and supporting your clients in a holistic practice.
Yeah, and being able to afford to get your amalgam.
You know, it's only a couple of £1,000. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's been.
Yeah, maybe if you scan your entire village and.
There's been quite a few people asking in the chat room about, you know, how can we get the software? Here's another question too, related from Mary 555. Can we transfer a normal picture to a program, or do you need a special camera? And I think that's right up the same alley right there. You have to have this special software.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, the beauty is, as you know, the biofield is seen by the human eye. And therefore we can use a camera. It's just we need to persuade the camera to show us what it can see in our range of sight. And that's why this is a non-linear program. But not only can we process images, we're even contemplating the idea of doing an energy transfer. Child, and you had healthy kidneys, and kind of doing a cut and paste of the energy around those healthy kidneys for an isotonic treatment, where you get your own healthy kidney frequency back to yourself. And we've been developing this technique of electrotransplant therapy, and having videos. I mean, it's fascinating when you just go on the computer and put other images through the Biofield viewer, like your newscasters. So yes, it's a super flexible, super versatile system. And I haven't even demonstrated the 3D version of it to you, but the fact is that a lot of our doctors around the world are taking PET scans and MRI scans and CT scans and processing them through the Biofield viewer, so they can see the tumor on the CT scan, and they can actually see the real malignancy within the tumor with the Biofield viewer. So, you know, there's a huge potential to this technology. And, you know, I'm just incredibly gratefully developed it when he was a schoolboy. And he needs to be given the credit for that, because he is the man. But he's also maintaining it and updating it so that as we get inspirations from our research around the world, so we can make sure our system's up to date.
And
So,
when you
wow, yeah,
about,
thank you. I appreciate these kind.
sorry, Dr.
Go on.
Scooter. You were speaking about John Catchpole, is that correct?
Yeah, John Catchpole. He's the guy who actually is the software coder. He has a team in Thailand, and I've been collaborating with him since I was a kid. You know, we've both been doing this. We don't have a contract between us. We've worked together for 30 years based on love and a handshake.
Well, he had mentioned to me that I guess he was looking at doing an audio component of this as well. And I know there's some technologies out there that do similar things with the tones that are coming out from us, and what that's saying about
Well, I mean, I mean, he does have a free program, which you can, I mean, I can send you the link, which makes a 3D graphic of sound. But yes, the point is that the healing process has a waft and weave, and they are sound and light.
So you mentioned grounding and nature are good ways to increase or enhance your energy field. Are there other ways that you would recommend?
Very much so, very much so. I mean, it's two fronts. It's like removing things from your life that draw on your energy field, and then obviously bringing things into your life which enhance it. You know, when I was showing my slides earlier, I had one up, and I'm just quickly going to show it because it does speak 1,000 words, this thing. You know, this whole concept of our food, you know, it's right here. Yeah, I mean, this is three images of an apple. The aura, the biofield of an apple, a healthy raw apple is, you know, Adam and Eve weren't stupid. They realized that the light in seeds and fruit, you know, has an opportunity to magnify consciousness much more than just eating bits of paperwood. But look here, this is that same apple, and this is that same apple having put in a microwave for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So if we don't eat our food right, we miss the golden opportunity to enhance our biofield. So, you know, sprouted seeds and nuts and fresh fruit and vegetables, lots of salads. This is, you know, coupled with all the other things you love. I mean, we're not rabbits. Enhance our energy field. But being in our truth and being present is the most profound harmonizer of the field. And being present means not having any anchors dragging in the past or any tentacles in our filofax planning things in the future. It means actually being here right now, as all of us are. We showed up, we're here. And that presence is the most powerful tool, because you gather yourself. You become whole if you're present. And from that sense of presence, we can magnify our field, and we do that because I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the silver thread. Well, through humility, we can open that aperture to divinity as thick as a fireman's hose pipe. And so that is the ultimate relationship, is the relationship we have with divinity. And as we know from the 7 deadly sins and the 7 heavenly virtues, which is the Christian allegory of the chakra story, you know, it becomes glandular fever, sloth, lust, and pride. These are the 3 deadly sins that aberrate our higher extrasensory perception. And in the same way, you know, zest, you know, service, and crikey, what's the opposite of lust? Abstinence, I don't know. And then obviously pride is nipped by humility. So in humble service, we shine. It's as simple as that. If you want to shine, be in humble service. To the other, whoever there is, animals, could be grasses, could be rare breeds, anything. Yeah.
What have you ever tried doing this on, say, a GMO apple versus an organic apple? Would it give off like a different energy?
Oh, absolutely. And there are all kinds of other devices that we can actually measure the difference as well. I mean, the Lecker antennae is a sort of multidimensional pendulum, LESCHER. ACMOS is one of the organizations that promotes this Lecker antenna, but they're not very expensive. It's a 3-dimensional pendulum, and so you can work out the frequencies that are present in an organic apple or a pesticide GMO-loaded apple. So we do have the tools, and in fact, there's a little Russian machine. I'm going to have to go downstairs to my office, which does a similar thing. But definitely, the Biofield is the ultimate kind of insight into you know, whether something is what it says it is. But this is the machine that I was mentioning. It's not the Lecker antenna, it's this Russian machine. What you do is you take the probe off and you can put it into the apple or the banana, and you can work out, it's called SOEKS. They're only a couple of £100. It's a Geiger counter. You can test water and food. So, you know, it's the kind of, I guess, a Sony Walkman for the smart family of the new generation, just to kind of tool up and then you're kind of, but ultimately, you know, we grow our own food. I've got my seeds in and they'll all be planted soon.
I've got some questions from the YouTube chat room. Here's another one from James. He's asking, do things like alcohol, tobacco, weed, and mushrooms, psilocybin, what do they do to our biofield?
Good one. I like questions like that. We'll put it this way. When I was 21, I was working with, I mean, I was a student. I was studying all these things. And I'd come across this guy called Harry Oldfield. And I was doing some healing because I dived into the shallow end of a swimming pool and I had all this energy leaking out of my head. And I had about 8 healing sessions and it was pretty much better. I was almost better. And then I met a crazy old friend of mine and we did a few lines of cocaine. And the next day I happened to be going back from my session with Oldfield, and he was like, you look like you've been run over by a bus. You know, what the hell have you done? We're back to square one here. So I think certain drugs and certain kind of modern combinations of those drugs aren't necessarily very supportive because, you know, what seems to happen is we have a kind of subtle membranes and they blast that membrane. But then also if we're not in a sort of really nice heart's natural space for the come down, other things can rush in, like viruses and so forth, because we've blown our own boundaries through choice. So when it comes to alcohol, well, you know, I think, I mean, I know I've studied in London, and every with a guy, and he would take a different drug and come and be my last client on the Friday. So he did the, you know, Blue Lotus, he did Iboga, he did, you know, all the hardcore drugs. And wow, yeah, I mean, you've definitely seen something amazing. I mean, what I would say is just go natural. You know, if that's your journey to kind of be available in other dimensions, possibly best to do it naturally. I grew up, you know, kind of psychedelic hippie. I've probably taken as much acid as the best of us, but I don't really do it anymore. I don't feel I need to do it anymore. I'm a 50-year-old guy. I like to trip on nature. So yeah, I mean, we drink fruit beer at home and a glass of white wine. A bottle of wine lasts for 2 or 3 days in this house. I think you can do all these things in moderation. I'm a pot smoker, fiendish, so I can't say, I mean, that does show up in my field sometimes, because, you know, English, we smoke joints, basically. We mix it with tobacco, so I think there's a bit of a magic carpet and quite a lot of dust underneath it. And obviously I've monitored myself throughout this time period. I mean, it's better if we don't need a vice, but nature allows us to live a long and healthy and fruitful life with our vices if they're well selected. That's probably what I would say. And the Biofield would say the same thing. You know, I'm speaking from experience of working with the Biofield imaging. I hope that answers your question, James.
Okay, and I appreciate you answering that for him. Just for the record, you know, when I had those pictures taken, I haven't had any alcohol, tobacco, weed, or mushrooms in my system for months. The last time I drank anything was July 4th, I think last year. Mushrooms probably last year. Alcohol tobacco last year. Weed, yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that's why you, the thing, Gregg, I can't stress how fantastic your field looks. I mean, literally, Joyce and I were celebrating when we saw your pictures because it's a slam dunk. I mean, you're like a living God. You're living your truth, and you don't need any of that shit.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because, you know, Todd Medina and we did a show recently, and we both came to the same conclusion that it just seems like now's the time for people to break away from their addictions. I used to smoke, you know, pretty close to a pack of American Spirit organic cigarettes a day. I used to drink, and, you know, I have a hard time telling people to do anything because I don't like being controlled, and I'm not going to control others. But I would make that suggestion. This is the time now to overcome your addictions.
Yeah.
I did some testing with a couple of healers in Sarasota, maybe a month, 2 months ago. And we actually, like essential oils, just putting those on the palm of your hand and the effect that it had on the biofield. It was really interesting. You know, if you want to take drugs in another way, i.e. through, you know, natural essential oils or things along this line, to see that it affected the biofield as well. So.
Okay, that's good to know.
So if you ever want to play around with stuff like that, Gregg, take some photos, send them to me, and I'll run them through the imaging for you.
All right, cool. I appreciate that. There's another question here too from One Mind, One Love, One Life. And this person's asking, can your software do real-time movement to show changes in the field?
Yeah. I mean, we're working on new version, and yeah, I mean the current version does reveal real-time changes. That is the answer. But as technology and as our team are getting better at working with technology, we are able and looking forward to revealing more and more. Yeah, I mean, if somebody sits in front of a white wall with a half decent light pointing at them and goes through a meditation to ecstasy, you can see that all live in their field. Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautiful.
That'd be cool.
And that's what we need right now, because then we know when we're on the right track, or when we're, you know, deluded. It's the time of delusions. And it's important for us to find our truth in that time of delusion.
You were saying that your system, your viewer can see things long before it becomes physical. Would that include things like cancer?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I mean, you know, I'm a doctor of science. Doctors or people who speak about cancer, you know, generally can be jailed, I think now. You know, there's laws. If you're not a medical doctor, you have no right to speak about it. So I find it a kind of a hot potato. What I can say is that I've observed a lot of tumors in my time, and they kind of swing from being like someone threw all the logs they chopped for the winter on the fire and they're burning at once. So it's like this great big white flame coming off the breast or something, if it's a malignant breast cancer. Whereas I've also seen, you know, the necrosis come in, and you actually I've seen a spinal tumor that looked like a black worm throbbing in the spine. But we do have a lot of doctors working with cancer patients. Specifically, the one who springs to mind is called Dr. Elia Kostova, and she is working out of Bulgaria. She has a very active YouTube channel as well called Neitropia, Neitropia, and she's got some amazing videos of cancer patients in recovery. No issues. We just have to tiptoe around this ivory tower with Rapunzel and Rumpelstiltskin throwing stones at us. I'm talking about the pharmaceutical industry.
I don't watch a lot of TV except for American football in the fall. Yeah, and that's the only thing I'll watch on like Sunday nights or whatever. But outside of that, my TV has been off for I don't remember the last time I turned my TV on. We'll put it that way. What does the TV do to one's energy field?
Well, any EMFs aren't very healthy. I've done a lot of research and various kind of mobile phone energy dots, and obviously some of them are all Mickey Mouse, but some of them seem to work pretty well. I certainly would put some kind of harmonization technology on my TV, and that does inspire discussion of, you know, the next beautiful cottage industry, which is the development of orgonite. And I would encourage any of your listeners, if and how to make orgonite, embrace it, so that they can, yeah, I mean, I don't know where my mobile phone is, but I've got, I think I left it upstairs. I've got some rings from, oh my God, Slim Sperling on my phone. So I think it's about being smart. You know, we can make everything ourselves for harmonizing technology. Personally, I've also got shielding on this phone, on this screen. I think it's also important to use things like sleep, you know, night mode. I have a program called Color of My Screen, so that, you know, if I'm on my computer at night, I'm not being flooded with wake up blue light. I've got a more kind of gentle amber light. So I think technology is trust those things. And on another level, because I'm so connected with my to kind of presence with an nothing out there can mess with that. It's only when we allow ourselves to be weakened or chipped away at. But I would rather encourage everyone just to claim their truth and their presence, and then all these, you know, little bits of clutter can't get anywhere near us.
You know, I've been telling people, stand in that vibration, your vibration of truth, love, and light. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or says. There's another question on YouTube from Terry, and she's asking, have you tested orgonite? Have you tested shungite or Gans of water from Kesh's Gans water? Have you tested any of that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, we had a fully funded lab by the United Nations for 20 years, and I think I tested about 500 different things. What I do now is I tend to work directly for organizations that are making things, because, you know, I think it's really important that they know what they're doing and they don't just assume what they're doing. So, for example, I've been in service to an organization called LifeWave recently, which makes kind of patches which you put on your acupuncture points. I'm always looking for the 1 rupee option. You know, I live in India most of the time, so anything that costs $50, I'm wondering why it isn't 1 penny. Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, in answer to the question, yes, of course I have.
What about tuning
we've
forks?
Tested orgonite, we've tested shungite, but this, yeah. Well, I remember when Eileen McCusick bounded up to me when I was giving a lecture in Carolina, a couple of maybe 2008, I don't know, and she was saying, hey, I've discovered this new way of scanning the biofield. Yes, of course, I've done a lot of collaborative research with all different modalities. I think tuning forks offer a lot of promise. But, you know, all these things to me are stepping stones for what we were just discussing, which is, you know, we can claim our divinity right now. We can claim our truth, our perfection, our ultimate state, and then live it. So yes, I really appreciate all these tools which can help us along the way, but we're the divine beings with choice right now, and we're the ones that can change the movie that we're watching. We've watched the clouds of pollution clear over all the cities and urban areas over the last few weeks, and we realize that this virus is a horror, but it's also a gift. And I think that's true for everything. You know, we can turn all these things into gifts. But certainly, you know, orgonite is something we can make at home. We don't need to import stuff from Russia or somewhere. So I'm always into local and cheap. You know, the gods are local and cheap too.
So I don't have any more questions for you. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? Definitely give your websites, but is there any other topics you want to talk about before we?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to say one thing, which is that, you know, there is a sense now that, you know, we're all being challenged enormously. And yet, by returning to the real simple things in life, we talked about grounding. Well, what does that mean? That means go stand in your garden and plant some seeds, you know, nourishing ourselves in a natural way. And maybe it is time to sort of step out from the big TV stuff and just kind of tap in when we need to and want to. So yes, this is a time for healing. I'm really glad to be here with you today because it is a time for healing. We're healing at home. We're turning our houses into sacred space with harmonization. And I think that's really the need of the hour is looking at our space and looking at our family and looking at optimization. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Gregg. I feel like we should be playing again sometime soon when maybe some more questions come in or other people have got the system, taken some pictures, because, you know, we can even capture entities with our technology. And, you know, we've got this so blinkered, narrow view that the human eye gives us that's as thin as a fly's wing. And we base all of our modern science and everything on these observations. And yet, you know, every single element has its hierarchy of elementals. And luckily, some of us can see them, but certainly this technology is allowing us to really see what other etheric zoology we have living on this planet with us and how we can work with them.
Joyce, is there, thank you for all that too. And Joyce, is there anything you'd like to close with?
Yeah, I just wanted to share a couple of the websites to help folks out. And again, to thank you for the platform that you've created and managed for all of these years. Your future's so bright, you got to wear shades. And we saw that today on the Biofield, right?
Yeah.
So if you want more information, and there's a really good video, it's about an hour long about the technology itself, hosted by Dr. Streeter. It's at www.biofieldviewer.com, and you can check that out. I also put some instructions for, and the promo code information will be there as well, under www.joyfullife.co. That's JOYFULLIFE.co. And that gives, you know, links to the promo, and also that'll be available under the biofieldviewer.com website. And then also, if you have any questions at all, the biofieldviewer@gmail.com is an email address that I sent up. I would be more than happy to help folks answer any questions that they have, because as we can see, there's an opportunity, obviously, to incorporate this into a practitioner's toolkit. But also what you and I did, Gregg, was to have you take some photos at home, send those to me, and to get those processed. And it gleaned all of this information that was helpful today, right? And I want to be part of that change. I really feel this is my calling to help others see their energy field and make the necessary changes as well, until my vision comes in. So thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure. And what I'll do is I'll take that information and put that in the more info section of the video. Perfect. As soon as we get done. So, you know, anyone watching this on the recorded version can find it there. And I just want to thank Dr. Streeter once again for going over my photos, allowing me to be the guinea pig, and to, you know, give the full recommendations of what he did, you know, for things that I can do to help get me to where I need to be. I appreciate that. And I appreciate both of you coming on to explain this process. So maybe we'll do this again down the road. And
we love you, Gregg.
Love you too, brother. And thank you once again. So
thank you.
You guys have all the information you need. I'm going to put that back in the more info section, all that information as well, in the more info section of the YouTube video. I want to encourage you guys to check out in5d.net for killer high vibration shirts, and our Patreon page as well, patreon.com/in5d, if you want to support this network and shows like this. So greatly appreciated. And share those articles for me. I'm asking you right now. I'm actually coming out and asking you, please help me share articles, because I can't, I'm getting seriously shadow banned. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up right there. Thanks to our guests. And I am sending you all infinite love and light. My name's Gregg, in5d.com. Namaste, everyone. Love you all.
Back to you, Gregg. Love you.
Bye.